hope this is good lighting. It's been a little while. I've taken a break from my channel for about the last couple months. It's been like a month or a month and a half, I can't remember. But I am back. I've had the baby, and I just wanted to come on here and tell you guys about my birth experience, and just give you guys an update on what's going on. So let's jump right into the video. I don't want to keep you guys waiting. So this video, as you can see from the title, is going to be my birth story, and yeah, so let's jump right into it. So my due date was October 12th, and leading up to my due date, I was speaking with my doula and my midwife about ways to go into labor because my previous two children were overdue, and I did not want to go overdue again. So I was really talking to them a lot about natural remedies and what I could take to go into labor on my own. At 36 weeks, I had started the primrose oil capsules, the ones that you insert vaginally, to like ripen up my cervix. I was taking I was drinking red raspberry leaf tea. I was drinking that about 1 to 2 times a day. I wasn't really consistent, or as consistent as I should have been. And so yes, I was doing that. And then I was bouncing on my birthing ball every single night. I was trying to take as many walks as I could. And that's pretty much all I was doing leading up to going to labor. I really wasn't doing a whole lot because I also remembered, like with my other two children, even when I did a lot of things, I had to be induced with my first at 42 weeks and 5 days, and my second came at 41 weeks when my water broke. So I was doing, and if you guys see me looking down or you see my leg bouncing, it's because I'm bouncing the baby in a bouncer. But yeah, so I really wasn't doing a whole lot to like naturally induce labor. I was just doing a couple of the tips that my midwife and my doula had given to me. A lot of what I already knew. So fast forward to my 40-week appointment. It was just a normal day, but for some reason in my mind, I had in my mind that something might happen. So I was really prepared. I know a lot of people leading up to labor or leading up to their due date, things just happen that's just out of your control, and your labor just doesn't go how you wanted it to go. So initially I was supposed to give birth at Bryn Mawr's birthing center, and that was the plan leading up to my due date. Nothing changed, nothing medically was happening that would require me to go anywhere else. But something about my 40th week appointment just had me really uneasy, and so I really wanted to be prepared. So that the days before my appointment, which was the weekend, because my appointment was on Monday, I had like scrubbed the house. I was scrubbing baseboards, walls. I was just doing everything under the sun. I was making meals, put all my bags in the car seat was in the car, everything was set up. My kids' bags to go to my mom's house was already in the car. I had clothes laid out on the banister for my kids to grab on our way out the door and throw on, just in case like I went into like spontaneous labor or something. So I had an inkling that something was happening or going to happen. It just so happened that that morning I had dropped my kids off to my mom. So this is Monday morning, October 12th. I dropped my kids off to my mom and went to my appointment like normal. Everything initially at my appointment was going really great, really normal, except for my blood pressure was a little elevated. Now my blood pressure throughout my entire pregnancy was great, nothing out of the normal. And this really startled my midwife because she's like, well, where is this coming from? My blood pressure was 140/91, which is not like preeclampsia numbers, but it was high enough where my midwife was like, this doesn't seem right. She checked it again and it was close to the same thing. And so it gave her enough concern that she wanted me to go across the street, because the birthing center and the hospital is literally like across the street from each other, and at least get checked out by one of the OBs and the midwives that was over there. And if they cleared me, she told me I was going to be able to go home. Now let's pause right there. I was already 40 weeks that day. So normally if you go into the hospital on your due date or past your due date, they will induce you or they will try to keep you because you're on your due date. So I kind of had in my mind that they were probably going to keep me because it was my due date. So I called my husband. I just told my husband, like, hey, they want me to go check out my blood pressure across the street. He was really nervous. He's not a fan of hospitals. That was one of the reasons we were having the baby at a birthing center. But you know, I just told him, like, oh, you know, everything's gonna be cool. But in my back of my mind, I'm like, they're gonna keep me. Also, my midwife decided, since she was sending me over there and it was my due date, that she could just strip my membrane. So we talked about it. I agreed to it, and she stripped my membranes. I wasn't feeling anything at all after that. But once I got to the hospital, I got to the hospital, you know, told my husband that, you know, he could stay at work for a while they checked me, and if they were going to keep me, then I would call him back for him to come. Call my doula and told my doula what was going on. I got to the hospital. They got me into the room. The nurses was really nonchalant. They're like, oh, you know, you'll probably go home, you know, whatever. I didn't have any bags with me, anything, because I just was like, oh, I'm going to get checked. So I left all of my bags in the car. And I'm like, hey, if my husband comes, he can just bring the bags up with him in the car seat. So I get in the room and they hook me up and they're like, oh, so we're going to check your blood pressure for an hour. My first blood pressure they took was 122/70. So they were like, maybe this is nothing, because that's normal. And so, you know, they was continuously checking my blood pressure. I got hooked up to the contraction and the heartbeat monitor for the baby. And while I was there, they could see on the screen that I was having contractions. I couldn't feel anything, but they could tell that I was having contractions. They decided to check my cervix, and I was 4 centimeters dilated, 80% effaced. And so they were like, oh yeah, like, we feel like if it's not today, it's probably tomorrow that you'll probably have this baby, because you are pretty much in labor or like close to active labor, because they could, between my contractions, how far I was progressed with my cervix, they were pretty like, yeah, you're like, you know, you're close and on your way. At that point, I started to try to document as much as I can. So if you looked at my previous video, I really tried to document as much as I could, but I was kind of nervous. My blood pressure was like going up and down, so I really didn't record as much as I wanted to. I wanted to record me pushing and stuff, but that didn't happen, because I'll get to that as I finish talking to the story, like my pushing stage. So anyway, after that, I called my husband again and I told him like the update, like, I'm 4 centimeters dilated. They said that I'm having contractions. They think I might have the baby. You might want to come up here just in case things start to go in that route. So he started to make his way to the hospital. My doula actually got to the hospital, but due to COVID, she could not come upstairs. So what she decided to do was wait downstairs for my husband to come, to give him all the tools and things that I would need during labor. So like essential oils, back massaging, rebozo, which is the scarf that's used to like hold your belly up during labor and relieve pressure, and just a bunch of other doula tools that she had in her bag. So that was like a blessing. I'm so grateful to my doula for not only waiting for my husband to come and giving him some instructions and like tools, but she was on FaceTime the whole time and during my labor, giving me good techniques to use to cope with the pain. And so maybe about an hour or so of me being there. So let's just do a time frame. My appointment was at 11 o'clock. I got to the hospital at, I want to say 12, maybe 12:30, because I kind of stalled a little bit waiting in the car, kind of like getting my thoughts together. So probably about 12:30. And my husband got to the hospital at 2:30. So after sitting there for about, you know, an hour and maybe 2 hours, from 12:30 to 2:30, they decided to check me again. They said that my blood pressures were good enough where they felt that like it wasn't hypertension or like gestational hypertension, like, which is high blood pressure due to pregnancy, because my blood pressures was pretty good. However, my contractions were getting closer together and stronger, even though I still at that point could not feel how strong they were. I hope this bouncer is not annoying. Like, I hope you can't hear like this swaying back and forth, but mom life. Where was I at? Oh yeah, so they were like pretty much telling me like the blood pressure stuff was good. They had checked my urine. It came back negative for protein, so it wasn't preeclampsia. But they were like really convinced that I was in active labor at that point. They had checked me again at 2:30 and I was 5 centimeters dilated. So they were like, your body is doing what it needs to do. Like we told you, you're having this baby today because your body is going. When my husband got there, the midwife came in and she talked to us and she gave us our options, which was 2 different options. Because I was there for hypertension, she really wanted to get the baby out as soon as possible, just so that way she could assess me without the baby being inside of me. I'm not gonna say I felt pressured. My doula on the phone wasn't really happy about the way that my midwife was talking, only because she felt like my midwife was really like, I want to see you without the baby inside of you, and my doula really wanted me to just be in the moment and take as much time as I needed. However, I felt like, you know, I was just ready to have the baby, and the safest way for the baby to be there without any type of medical intervention or like anesthesia or anything like that, I was okay with. So my 2 options at that point was to get my water broke or start Pitocin, like a low dosage, because I was already having contractions. It would just kind of speed up my labor. I had Pitocin before with my first baby. It really didn't make labor any more tough for me. It really didn't affect me how somebody else would say like they were in excruciating pain. I didn't really feel like too much of that, so I was like, oh, I don't care if it's Pitocin. I knew that breaking my water would make the contractions more painful, because when my water broke with my second baby, I could just feel this like pounding on my cervix with the contractions. So I was a little bit more nervous about that, but I felt that because when my water broke with my second baby, my labor was only 2.5 to 3 hours long. I mean, pushing included. I was like, hey, let's just break my water. I know that means I'll only probably have a couple more hours if this goes how my second baby went. Let's just go that route. My husband felt good with that. And so that's what we did. So at 3:34, because my doula kept time of everything, I believe that was the time, 3:34 p.m., they had stated that I was in active labor and that they broke my water at 3:34. And from then, the contractions picked up. I decided to get out the bed. I wanted to stay active. I knew staying active and staying out of the bed would keep my labor progressing. And so that's what I did. My husband was very helpful. Not having my doula present in the room, he took on the role, like, hands down. He was the best that day. He, you know, listened to my doula when it came to comfort techniques, like pushing on my back or squeezing my hips. Swaying back and forth, just holding on him and allowing my body to move back and forth helped. The contractions weren't painful at that moment, but I could feel the tightening and the strength of them getting worse. So as the time started to go on, the contractions started getting worse. You know, I was talking to my family. My family were calling me on my cell phone. I was talking to my mom, one of my closest friends, my sister, just like keeping them updated during my labor. None of them could believe how like calm I was at that point. But again, the contractions at that point really wasn't that painful. At 6:55, I decided to have them check me because the strength of the contractions was just to the point where I felt like we were getting close is what I felt. I could just watch the contractions on the screen. They were like coming back to back to back. The strength of the contractions was getting to the point where I no longer wanted to answer my phone. I was bouncing on the birthing ball, and I had kind of like was on the birthing ball and had my body on the bed, leaning over the bed, and had my head down. And I could just tell like all the pressure that was coming, that we were getting really close. So they decided to come in and check me at 6:55 p.m. and I was 7 centimeters, 100% effaced. So I was on the way to go. She figured I had maybe about 3 hours. I knew that with my previous son, when I got to 7 centimeters, I had the baby within an hour. So I pretty much said to my husband, like, he's probably going to be here soon. At this point, they suggested that maybe I get into the shower to have like the water relieve some of the pain that I was feeling. And so that's what I decided to do. Also, my husband was using essential oils like lavender and clary sage to rub on my body. When I got into the shower, he took the lavender and he rubbed it on the walls so that way the steam from the shower could pick up the lavender and I could smell the lavender. And so I got into the shower at like maybe 7:15-ish, maybe around that time. I sat in the shower and I let some contractions go. And it started to get to the point while I was in the shower that I could no longer sit down. So it almost felt like a ball was in between my legs and I couldn't put pressure on my bottom as I was sitting in the shower. I would suggest water or a shower or a tub or anything to anyone in labor. Please do it. It felt amazing. I felt like I was in heaven at that point. Like, I wasn't screaming during labor. I wasn't yelling. I was making a lot of noises. But at this point, when I could no longer sit on my bottom, is when I was at like my breaking point. So up until then, I was like swaying, I was rocking, I was, breathing in and out. But when I got to that point, and I know that's called transitioning, that's when you're about to push, because I've gone through natural births 3 times now. It is so unbearable. You can't even function. You feel like your mind is just gone. Like you have just completely just like given up your body to the whole labor. And you feel this intense amount of pain and the contractions are coming on top of each other. There's no breaks in between. And that's what it was for me. And so I got up out the shower and I told my husband, like, I couldn't take it anymore. Like I was like losing it. Like I kept my cool this entire time. Now this is it for me. I started to like whine, not cry, but like whine through the contractions and start telling him like, I can't take it anymore. Like this baby needs to come out. Like I know I'm close, but because I had just got checked, this was, I don't even know what time this exact time was, but I knew it had only been about 20 minutes from when I had got checked. And so I just was saying to him, like, it's too soon to push. Like, I just felt in my body like it wasn't time to push because it was just so close to when I had last got checked. And so I was trying to stick it out, but the pressure that I was feeling, this ball that felt like it was coming out of me, I just started screaming and told him to go get the doctors because either the baby was coming or something was wrong. And so as I was yelling for him to get the doctors, I started to get on the bed and my body was just, it started to push on its own. Like I could feel the muscles in my body just pushing. And in my mind, I'm like, oh no, this baby's coming out. So my midwife and I think about 3 nurses came running into the room, and one of the nurses was like, didn't we just check her? Like, are you sure she's, and my midwife was like, I'm just going with whatever she's telling me. And if she's telling me that it's time to push, then it must be time to push because like, look at her. And at this point I was like tearing the gown off. I was getting on the bed. I had my one of my legs down, one of my legs up, and I was just like pushing, like, and my midwife was like, if you have to push this baby out. Like she gave me free will. At one point she said, if you want to get up, you can, get up and push the baby on all 4s. And I just was like, no. Like I have to get this baby out. And my husband was holding my hand and he just was like, smile. I could see him smiling from ear to ear, and he just was like, he's right there. And like everyone was like trying to gown up, but it was like coming so quick. And I pushed, I think about 5-6 times maybe, for a total of maybe about like 10, maybe 15 minutes. I'm not sure. But I can remember having this pause during the pushing stage. So after like the first 2 pushes, I could feel his head coming, and I felt like this intense burning, and just pain and pressure all at the same time. And I could just remember looking at my midwife and saying, I never want to do this again. And everyone started laughing in the room. And we paused at that moment. I held it and we paused so that way he could like naturally stretch and I wouldn't tear. And so I just looked at my husband and was like, is it almost over? Is it almost over? And he was like, yes, like he's right there. Like, and my midwife was like, you have about 2 more pushes and this baby is gonna be out. And she was right. Like, I pushed 3 more times. So I pushed 3 more times, and yeah, he was out. Like, and it was such a relief. You just feel this sense of like this calm come over your entire body because it's over. Like, it's literally over. Like, labor is over, the birth is over. Like, and you look down and it's this baby just like all gooky and stuff like that, but it's like on top of you, and like mom life. I'm recording. And so it just was amazing. It felt so good. And so yeah, it was great. So at that point they cleaned him off. We decided that we wasn't going to cut the umbilical cord for an hour, so they decided to put the placenta next to me, have him lay on my chest. We were doing breastfeeding and just all of that cuddling and stuff like that for that first hour while the placenta was still attached to him. It actually lasted maybe about 2 hours actually, because while they were cleaning up and things like that, and the midwife was like delivering another baby, they just allowed the placenta to stay there, and it was great because he got all those nutrients from the placenta for 2 whole hours. They came back in. My husband cut the umbilical cord. They took him over and did weight and height and got his footprints, and then they brought him back over to me, and we just started that bonding experience from then. So that's my labor and delivery story. I will talk a little bit about how I felt about not having my baby at the birthing center. I wouldn't say that it's brought trauma or anything, because I'm very grateful that my baby was here, or he is here, and he's healthy and I'm healthy and we're doing great. However, I did have a little bit of disappointment that I didn't get the actual birth that I wanted. I wanted to be in the water. I wanted to not be in a hospital setting. You know, I wanted this birth that I had and captured in my mind, you know, going into labor on my own, me and my husband coming to the birthing center together, all those different things that I didn't have because I was transferred to the hospital from the birthing center due to just wanting to get checked out for high blood pressure. And then I decided to stay at the hospital because I was in active labor at that point. It was no point of going anywhere. Plus, at that point, it just didn't even make sense to go home and then try to come back. Like, I was already in active labor. And I will say that the hospital was amazing. They were top notch. Everybody there was great. Our stay was great. I had to come back after I was released. I came back the next day because the baby had jaundice, and the staff there was just amazing. So I had an amazing birth experience. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to have any more kids. I am done. This is my 3rd son, and I'm very grateful for 3 healthy, beautiful baby boys. But yeah, I'll leave it there. That's my birth story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't like scattered brain and rambling. I tried to stick to all the things I was told from my husband and my doula. It'll be 6 weeks on Thursday that I had given birth, and I am just in love with this little baby. We all are in love with this little baby, and yeah, so that's my birth story, and he's woke now. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below. Sorry for the little mini interruptions. This is quarantine life, mom life, and yeah, so thank you guys for watching.